Last week we started talking about living a toxic-free life, and we're going to kind of continue that today. I have learned in my practice and in my personal life that living a toxin-free life generally does not happen just over time or immediately. It happens over time. And so I just want to encourage you as we dive into this topic not to feel overwhelmed, not to feel like you've been hit by a fire hydrant and you don't know where to start. Hopefully I'll give you some really key points on where to start and why it's so important that we take and do our very best to live as clean of a life as we possibly can live. Last week, I kind of ended with asking the big question or the burning question of which one is the worst toxin. And I do want to dive into that right away. I want to start with that today. But first, I do want to remind you, I'd love to hear where you're listening from. So in the comments, if you want to go ahead and just type in where you're listening from. It's always fun to see that and to hear from you. If you have any questions, be sure to put those in the comments as well so we can get to those as well. And then I do want to remind you that I do have an ebook that goes over a lot of the toxin-free living topic that we are talking about, and I will link that into the comments so that you can purchase that and have this hands-on ability just to really dive in deeper to what we are going to be talking about today. So the burning question, what's the most concerning toxic exposure that we are getting? And I'm going to answer that by saying it's really not one chemical, but it's an entire class of chemicals. Specifically the endocrine disrupting chemicals, because they're so ubiquitous and because they affect our health, our growth, and our development in so many ways. Those endocrine disrupting chemicals are things like fluoride, DDT, flame retardants, BPAs, lead, arsenic, mercury, ethylene, toluene. Those are some of the ones that we are being exposed to on a daily basis, and they're blocking our endocrine they're blocking our endocrine receptors. So let me explain that very quickly. First, I want to say hi to Ellie watching from Iowa. So let's just pretend that this is your endocrine receptor. It's your hormone receptor. All right, and so the hormones like we're talking about are like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, various different hormones like that, right? We have receptors in our cells, receptors. And so the body tells the tissue to make let's just say estrogen, to make more estrogen. And so the estrogen is made, and the goal is that it's going to come into the estrogen receptor and it's going to connect. And then the signal is made and the estrogen is impacting the tissues and telling the body what to do. So an endocrine disruptor, like I just mentioned, some of those, flame retardants, BPAs, parabens, etc. What they do is they block that endocrine receptor. And so now when the tissue has been told to release, say, estrogen, the estrogen has nowhere to connect because there's this block. And so that's how we develop these hormone imbalances. That's how we have growth issues, hormone issues, immunity issues, all of that, because our body is made up of various different hormones, not just the sex hormones. And when those are getting blocked, they can't tell the tissue then or the body then what to do. Okay? So I want to talk for a minute about something that's probably in your bathroom, sodium fluoride. Okay, so it's toothpaste. During the last century, and up until the 1950s, fluoride was actually prescribed as a thyroid suppressant for people who had hyperthyroid. so overactive thyroid. And they were prescribed a 2 to 5 milligram dose, and what it would do, it would calm down the thyroid. It was enough to suppress thyroid function. Well, in your bathroom, if you're using a normal fluorinated toothpaste, you get approximately, with one brushing a day, 1.3 milligrams of fluoride in that brushing. So if you're brushing twice a day, you're getting the equivalent of what it was prescribed before 1950 to suppress the thyroid. Now, doesn't that blow your mind? I see so many hypothyroid cases in my practice every single day. And the number is getting greater and greater all the time. I feel like it's just getting worse. We have this epidemic of hypothyroidism, which is slow thyroid or underactive thyroid, affecting mostly women, but men too. They come in, they present with fatigue, can't lose weight, losing their hair, dry skin, brain fog, tired all the time, right? So what we have to remember is that although the CDC will tell us that it's safe to take this amount of fluoride toothpaste on a daily basis, because technically the death dose is 33 tubes of toothpaste ingested all at once. What we have to remember is that the dose makes the poison, but very low levels of exposure can be more impactful than high levels of the dose of toxicity. Hopefully you're following me here. If you're listening in, I'd love to hear you just write following in the comments, because I love that feedback. I want to know that you're getting it. Doesn't it blow your mind to think that that thing that you use on a daily basis because we're told that it's okay could actually be causing you harm, right? I hate that. I hate that for you. I hate that for me. I hate that for all of us. So I talk about a lot of endocrine disrupting chemicals like bisphenols, phthalates, etc. in relation to hormones. But these big guys, they're actually contributing to a lot of our immune system issues and a lot of our metabolic diseases going on out there. It's awful. And it's not like we can actually ever get away from all of these things. But we have to make choices when we get the opportunity to make choices, right? We do have some choices that we can make, like change your toothpaste to a toothpaste that is much healthier for you, that doesn't have fluoride, a non-fluorinated toothpaste. If you don't know where to start, one of my favorite sites is ewg.org. ewg.org. It stands for environmentalworkinggroup.org. Go to the Skin Deep database. Type in the toothpaste that you're currently using and see what's all in there. You can get a list of everything that's in there. See where it's rated. It should be green, at least green. Don't stay away from the red. Question the yellow, right? So green means go. Green means it's okay. If it's not green, whatever you're using, your face soap, your body soap, your hand lotion, your toothpaste, whatever you're using, if it's not green, then when you run out of it, make sure you go buy something that fits into the green category. There's a ton there. My girls and I, a few years ago, were getting one of my daughters ready to go back to college, and we literally took a few hours in Target just going through, trying to find the healthy green, meaning go, products that she could take with her to college, because we're working on just lowering the toxicity load for every family member in our family, and I hope you're doing the same. I'm going to get into that a little bit more. So let's dive into that a little bit more. So I talk about the 4 ways that the enemy is going to impact the body and take you down. Because if in John 10:10 says the enemy seeks to kill, steal, and destroy. If the enemy cannot cause you to believe differently, he's going to find another way to take you down and take you out of commission, right? I stand on that. So there's 4 ways that the enemy is going to take the body down so that you cannot fulfill your purpose in life. Or 4 pillars of detox, if you'd rather think like that. Water, food, air, and the products that absorb through your skin. So let's talk about those, but first I want to talk about some of the things that actually are the biggest contributors in your health and bringing in the most toxicities. They are things like your kitchen pots and pans. So if you are still using Teflon or Teflon coated or non-stick coated pans, you've got to get rid of those. You have to get rid of those. It isn't all that expensive. You can watch the sales. Black Friday is coming up. That's when I happen to replace all of my pots and pans. I got stainless steel, but cast iron is also great. So look for stainless steel or cast iron. It's super simple to look for those things and start with one pan, the pan you use most, and just replace that one. But those are can make a big difference. Cutting boards. How many of you, raise your hand, are still using plastic cutting boards? You've got to get rid of those plastic cutting boards because they are causing little microplastic, nanoplastics to actually get into your body and cause your hormones not to be able to connect. They're endocrine disrupting. So get rid of those. Your shampoo and conditioner, your body wash, your soap, your toothpaste, your mouthwash and your floss, cleaning products, candles, and air fresheners. Those are some of the ways, some of the things that you're using in your home right now that you have control over. And you can actually make a change and it's not terribly costly. It can be very simple to do. Once you get those switched out in your life, then you switch over to bigger things like bath towels and bedding and your sheets, your toilet paper, your toys, things like that are making also impacts, but they're bigger switches. And maybe you don't use those quite as much. But they do make a difference, and so we can't ignore those as well. So let's talk a minute about tap water. Now I have my computer sitting in front of me. And remember, I just mentioned the ewg.org. And that is a site that you can go to, like I mentioned, to get clean skin products, skincare products. But you can also go there and to their tap water database. And you can type in your zip code. So I thought, well, I'm just going to type in my zip code real quick and see what comes up with. Erica asks, is there a place where we can find a list of all these items? Well, I have a list in the ebook that I will post for you in the comments after the live. But going to the EWG will be a great place to start as well for you. So I went into the EWG, I went into tapped water base. I'm going to look up my area of where my water comes from. And right away it tells me there's 11 contaminants and 13 total contaminants. If I keep looking here on my computer, I'm going to see that there are, of those, it's going to break it down. It's going to tell me what's actually in the water, at what percentage it is in the water, and what it causes. So I can tell you there is For instance, bromodichloromethane, 40 times the amount of the EWG guideline. It is a cancer-causing toxin, and that's just one of them. Then there's others that are in here. So although, remember, the dose is not in, or the poison is not in the dose, it's about the accumulation over time. So what I want you to think about is that how often do you drink this water from your tap? How often do you bathe? How often do you wash in it? Wash your hands, all of that. And it's not about necessarily what our water company is telling us it's okay. It's about the fact that we're continually putting these things time and time again into our bodies, and it's storing in our tissues. So tap water is a big issue. It's a bigger issue than you think. If you're struggling with chronic illness, you absolutely have to change the water that you drink, because we're looking at getting heavy metals, chlorine, microorganisms, medications, and whatnot. Harriet asks, can an RO filter help with that? Absolutely. An RO filter is a great option. Harriet, one of the things that you can do, that we all can do, is we can actually take a sample of our filtered water, because if you want to know, is my filtered water working best for the type of water that I have? So take a sample of it, send it into mytapscore.com, and you'll get a report back on just exactly how well your water filter is working. Right? So if you question whether your water filter is working for you, that is a great way to check. Otherwise, I list a ton of various different, and I'll put them into the comments, a couple of them. There's more that you can get in the ebook, but there's reverse osmosis systems that you can use. There's whole house water filters. There's gravity top water filters. One of them that I like to use in our is a Berkey. I got a Berkey for our daughter who went off to college. She used it at college because we had very little choices. I also personally use a water filter that is a distilled water filter. Sits on my countertop. I'll put a link in for that. And it is a fantastic way, because I know exactly that my water is absolutely pure and clean. There's water pitcher filters. One of my other favorites is clearly filtered pitcher water. There's shower and bathroom sink attachments. I brought one. This is the one. Whoops, it's still dripping. This is the one that we use with our bathtub. It just hangs on the bathtub faucet, and the water goes right through it and it filters it out. So you know that when you're taking a bath, you can actually have filtered bath water. This one is called Crystal Quest. Okay, so that works lovely. And then there's other ones that are travel filters for your water bottles. And we like to use Life Straw stainless steel water bottle. Okay, so that's a really good one. So if you're traveling, you're not going to have access to good filtered water. That's a great one to have. So water. Water is one of the ways that these toxins are getting into your body. The next is air. So we are inundated with toxins in our own homes, from mycotoxins to flame retardants to things that are, coming off of our furnitures and whatnot. Not to mention some of the dust particles that come in from outside, and depending upon how where you live and how often you have your windows open makes a huge difference as well. So air is another big one that we want to look at, and some of the things that we can do to have clean air are things like ditching the synthetic fragrances, right? Like tossing out your candles, tossing out the air fresheners, the scented plugins. Oh, nothing gives me more of a headache when I walk in and somebody has a scented plug-in. Utilize things like essential oil diffusers or essential air diffusers. Rocasa has a room spray that is lovely. I love their products. Those are some of the things that you can use instead of bringing in those toxicities. Reduce your mold exposure in your home. Using a dehumidifier and keeping it between 30 and 45 humidity level within your home. Using an air purifier. I personally love the Triad Air. I can put a link into the comments for you there. But the Triad Air not only kills the mycotoxins, the bacterias and whatnot, but it also filters it as well. So it's, and I love Mycotox. I love the Triad Air people. Mike is wonderful at Triad Air. And he always shows me all these amazing new studies that he's doing that, like, you can't deny. The data is there showing that it takes a toxin-filled house, mycotoxin-filled house, and you know, through testing and running the air filter, and then the test again, and there is a night and day difference. It's humongous. It's great. Another way that you can actually make the right choices to live a toxin-free life is by cutting down on the processed foods that you eat. So we talked about water or air. We talked about water. Now let's talk about the food. So processed foods, they're everywhere. And here's the truth. And I mentioned this last week. What's the #1 snack that kids bring to school to celebrate birthdays? Yep, Little Debbie cakes. Little Debbie cakes. They are not even refrigerated. They're packaged in plastic, and they're like they never expire. You can buy a Little Debbie and you can have it sitting on your counter for 2 years and it's still going to look the same. Why is that? It's not because it's made so well. It's because it's so full of preservatives and it's not healthy for you. So moms and dads, let's make some different choices on those treats that our kids are going to bring to school. GMO foods, genetically modified foods, genetically modified organisms, technically is what it is. They have grown in popularity due to how they improve crop yields, and they reduce the amount of expenses for farmers. And so it just seems like such a great win-win situation, except that it's harming us and harming our bodies. Research shows that it can be linked to things like asthma, allergies, and cancer. So we have to be more mindful of the foods that we're eating and choose non-GMO foods. That will help bring down the toxin level in your body as well. And then opting for organic foods when possible. Now, somebody will say to me, well, organic foods are extra expensive, and I agree. I know they are. And we have to make choices. So if it comes down to we either eat vegetables that are not organic or we don't eat vegetables at all, I'm going to recommend that you do eat vegetables. But you can choose healthier vegetables. You can choose to eat vegetables that maybe are less likely, and fruits that are less likely to to be more dangerous. So you can look up the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen and get a list of the most current that you can make sure that, you know, like I know strawberries. If you don't buy organic strawberries, maybe make a different choice. Strawberries aren't the best. Go for an orange, right? Something along that line, which I know we love strawberries. But if you can't get them organic, because they have pesticides grown within them. right? I mean, you can't even wash it off. So these are some ways that we can enjoy a toxin-free living. Next week, I'm going to kind of dive into some of our cleaning supplies that you can use and some of the ways that some of these toxicities can actually absorb through the skin. And I also want to kind of touch on greenwashing. Man, there are some companies out there that are greenwashing us, and you probably have them in your counter or your cupboards. So we'll dive into that just a little more next week. I hope you're enjoying this topic. I just want the absolute best for you. And I just want you to understand that these toxicities are lurking, and the enemy is trying to get to us in subtle ways that we can't even possibly fathom and we haven't even thought about. And so that's my goal, is to help you along this journey, help you to make the best choices for you and your family, that you can live a toxin-free life and at least know that of the things that are easily changeable so that you can feel better, because that's what it's all about, is bringing you hope. Thanks, Erica. I appreciate you joining today. Appreciate all of you joining today, and I can't wait to be back with you next week. Look at the comments for the ebook and some of the suggestions that I've made. Bye, everyone.